the more people that opt in, the more powerful the network gets. So it starts as a flicker and it spreads like a flame, and then it's a fire. And then it's like, okay, I released this thing and it spread everywhere in the world. And and everybody shares this common economic protocol for settling their differences in a fair and an equitable, transparent, unstoppable, immutable fashion. That is the idea of Bitcoin.
After the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission approved 6 spot Bitcoin ETFs in January, Bitcoin values rose 175% in a year, including $30,000 in January. Bitcoin reached a record $73,000 in March as ETF demand soared. 2 important ETF records occurred around the same time. The funds had their biggest daily net inflows of $1.005 billion and 17 straight days of net inflows in March. Tuesday, June 4th, saw the fund's second highest daily net inflows, 886.75 of the March 12th record. Fund net inflows were $488 million on Wednesday. Wednesday was the 17th straight trading day of inflows for the funds, tying the February record, according to senior Bloomberg ETF analyst Eric Balchunas. MicroStrategy creator and executive chairman Michael Saylor forecasts a gold rush decade for the largest cryptocurrency between 2024 and 20,134 due to institutional investors' thirst for spot Bitcoin. ETFs. In a recent interview, Saylor addresses one of the most pressing questions potential investors have about Bitcoin. Is it too late to invest in 2024? Bitcoin has been around for 15 years, and many early investors have made millions of dollars answering this question. Saylor compares investing in Bitcoin now or even a few years down the line to buying property in New York City 100 years or a few decades ago, explaining that New York was already...
Well, if Bitcoin had not been invented, this would be a pretty downer podcast. I'm just telling you that, the world's got economic problems. The government's going to debase the currency, spend it on things you disagree with, and you're going to be poor. Right? And that's how it ends. But Satoshi is as profound as Prometheus. Satoshi, Maxwell gave us electricity. Newton gave us Newtonian physics. Einstein gave us relativity. Satoshi gave us money. Satoshi developed a protocol that combines cryptography, networking with semiconductor technology, with mathematics, with a bit of economics and some engineering, and managed to create something that's simultaneously a technology, a network, an asset, and an ideology. And it's this thing we call Bitcoin. It's the world's first engineered money and the first engineered monetary network. So let's just step back and say, well, what really is Bitcoin and what would you like to have? Well, if you had 1 billion people and they didn't trust the banks and they didn't trust each other and they didn't trust any company and they didn't trust any government, and they realized that their life savings was being drained out of their accounts via massive hyperinflation of the currency. And if they had no rights, and if they were being driven out of countries because they were the wrong sect or the wrong color or the wrong religion or the wrong political view, and they felt like they would like to have ownership of their own economic energy, their own life force. They'd like to have sovereignty. They'd like to have property rights that could not be taken away from them. Let's assume you're one of those people, right? And you could see why you'd be one of those people, because in 1492, when the Spaniards discovered the New World, I think March 31st of that year, King Ferdinand issued an edict saying all the Jews had to leave Spain, like 500,000 of them, within 120 days and leave all their property behind. Or else they're getting jailed, murdered. And so the King of Spain just seized all the property of 500,000 people in 4 months. And then a few years later, the King of Spain issued the same edict for all the Muslims in the south of Spain, but gave them 3 days. I could give you 10,000 stories like that. It's like you're the wrong religion, the wrong political party, and the person in power just says, we're taking all your stuff. You need to leave now. And if you don't now can't leave. We're just going to kill you and take your stuff. So let's assume you lived through that history, which every human being did. Now God comes down from heaven above, and God says, okay, I've decided to solve your problem. I'm going to run a bank in heaven. I'm going to issue 21 million God coins, and they're infinitely dividable. And I'm just going to go ahead and do this for you for just about nothing. And you can telepathically move the coins between each other to pay off your debts. And I'm going to make sure that no bank, no government, no counterparty, no country, no criminal takes your money away from you. And I promise never to inflate it. I'm just going to, so there's your money. There's your bank. It's a bank in heaven. Right. And a person can hold a gun to your head, but you've got the money in your head, and the angels will, protect you. They might murder you, but they're not getting your money. So if I thought about that, I'm thinking, okay, God is going to run an honest bank for me. Okay, good. That's probably good. But in the absence of God offering to run the bank, and protect your property rights forever.
Saylor's description of the fiat currency trap is so accurate and easy to understand because it is based on his own experiences as an investor and business owner in 2020, after the government printed too much money to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Saylor's software and business intelligence company, MicroStrategy, had $500 million in cash, but he knew it would keep losing value if it wasn't invested right away. This made the question of where to invest the money long-term without losing it all to fiat debasement even more important. Saylor wasn't interested in the bond market, which has average annualized returns of 3%, or the S&P index, which does only slightly better at 7%, which is the same rate at which the dollar loses value every year. Saylor's was looking for a truly rare, unchangeable asset that would not only do better than bonds and stocks, but also do much better than the rate of fiat currency debasement. This is what led him to Bitcoin. Since the company's first $250 million investment in Bitcoin, the Virginia-based company has bought over 214,000 Bitcoins for a staggering $7.53 billion. During the conversation with Graham and Selby, the MicroStrategy executive chairman compared Bitcoin to other assets like art and real estate to show why nothing else comes close to the most valuable digital asset. Here are more clips from the talk.
From everybody. The next best idea is we create a piece of software using cryptography, and then the software instantiates in the protocol 21 million coins subdividable by 100 million, so 2.1 quadrillion Satoshis, which is effectively enough. You could subdivide it more if you needed to. We create that system, and now you can send 1,000, 100, 1,000,000, 1,000,000,000, 10 billion, $100 billion worth of that from anybody to anybody without asking anybody's permission using a computer. You can hold $1 million in your head, $1 billion in your head. You can hold it in your hand. If you know you're going to get arrested, you can just zap it to your sister in Singapore. If you don't trust the bank in New York, you can put it with the bank in London, right? And if you don't trust any bank, you self-custody. That's Bitcoin. And let's say you don't, so who's going to run the software? I don't trust you to run it. You don't trust me to run it. Let's say we all liked each other. Well, do you trust your great-grandchildren? Nobody trusts anybody. So how do you create an anti-fragile, fault-tolerant, self-correcting, self-healing system that will run forever? And the answer is everybody runs the software. So everybody can download the node. It's all open source. You can read the code. You run the software. It's a protocol. If you decide you want to tinker with the code and you change the code so there's 42 million Bitcoin instead of 21 million Bitcoin, we don't recognize you. You get kicked off the network. So this is a virus. It's a monetary virus. Everybody can opt into the monetary virus or the protocol. The more people that opt in, the more powerful the network gets. So it starts as a flicker and it spreads like a flame, and then it's a fire. And then it's like, okay, I released this thing and it spread everywhere in the world. And everybody shares this common economic protocol for settling their differences in a fair and an equitable, transparent, unstoppable, immutable fashion. That is the idea of Bitcoin. Will it be banned? Will it be copied? Will it be hacked? Right? Does Bitcoin represent sound engineering? Does it represent sound ethics? Does it represent sound economics? It's very, very difficult to know that in the first year or the first 2 years. In fact, people tried to launch something like Bitcoin 100 times before Bitcoin came along, right? And all of those early attempts failed. Bitcoin caught and it started to flicker. And
in other news, on-chain Willy Woo, a Bitcoin expert, thinks that Bitcoin is about to reach a new all-time high. Tap 72,000 is the spark that will start a bankruptcy, he wrote in a post on the social media site X on Wednesday. Cascade up to $75,000 and a new all-time high. $1.5 billion worth of short contracts are ready to be closed. Not known Plan B, a Bitcoin expert, also thinks that Bitcoin will reach new all-time highs and maybe even 6 figures in 2024. In one of his most recent posts on X, he says, "My forward guidance for 2024 and 2025 has not changed since October 2022, when Bitcoin was worth less than $20,000. I expect it to rise through April 2024, with a stock-to-flow model value of $55. After Bitcoin hits $100,000 in 2024, it will hit stock-to-flow aim for 0.5 million by 2025, with a range of 0.25 million to $1 million. Plan B's first 3 goals have been met. Do you think Bitcoin will reach $100,000 before the end of the year and $1 million next year? Please leave your answers and thoughts on Saylor's talk below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the bell.